So during this year, '86, I was writing letters to the California Department of Forestry trying to determine how much old growth we were talking about. And I kept getting answers like this. You know, the entire plan is old growth. All trees they cut are old growth. On and on and on. Until, you know, at the end of the year, when there were 52 timber harvest plans and 38 of them were all old growth, almost 10,000 acres, representing about 13% of all old growth redwood in parks at the time. 1 year. I forgot the punchline of that old story. After making that hike and getting to the edge of that landing and seeing and actually feeling that growth, I think I connected with something that was inside myself from my upbringing in the Guerneville area that I knew was there or felt was there, but had never experienced. And the next day I called up the publishers and I turned down the job, and it moved to Humboldt County. And that's the power of place. We all need to know our place, and I think that maybe I've finally found out what that is. So in '85, you know, this was almost double '85 and more than double the '84 figure. And of course, as mentioned before, the old PL selectively logged. So if you're like me at the time, you wanted to find out, well, who regulates this? And as we know now, the California Department of Forestry, which is a department that underneath the State Board of Forestry, the State Board makes the rules, and the department enforces them. And there's a lot of machinations that go on there we won't go into. But one of the things that happened in 1986 was that Epic, we talked about Epic before, sued Georgia Pacific over the last logging on the Lost Coast, the last ancient redwood. It was called Sally Bell Grove, 75 acres, a plug at the very bottom of a 500-acre watershed called Little Jackass Creek. And of course, GP wanted to clear cut it. And what this lawsuit did was it reinforced the fact that not only do timber companies have to adhere to State Forest Practices Act, the 1973 Act, but also the California Environmental Quality Act, that a timber harvest plan is a functional equivalent of an EIR and therefore has to adhere to the precepts of CEQA. CEQA is very important. I'm sure a lot of people in here are familiar with it. If you're not, it guides a lot of policy in the state. One of the very important provisions of CEQA is that a plan has to be evaluated for its significant adverse cumulative environmental effects. Now we're going to get a little wordy here, so hang with me, we'll get some more pretty pictures and stuff soon. But this is really crucial to understand, because the question again is, how did they get away with this? I mean, they got away with it on many levels. I mean, really incredible regime of illegality. And, you know, literally hundreds of violations of state forestry laws and economic laws, etc. Hundreds. And it went on and on. So how did they get away with it? So, but not only do they have to adhere to these stipulations of CEQA, but they also have to consider the plan, the timber harvest plan, in conjunction with past, present, and foreseeable future plans adjacent or near the plan area. That would be like the watershed, or at least a significant part of it. A whole bunch of plans together, you have to think about those and the ones that are going to come up. So, how did timber companies deal with this? In particular, how did Maxam and Pacific Lumber deal with this new court edict? Well, they came up with a disclaimer that they one whole new page at the end of these very thin timber harvest plans. And they said, there are no other existing or planned use land activities included but not limited to other THPs in the area, blah, blah, blah. Right? No cumulative environmental effects, I can hardly say that. And then, you know, well, that's not good enough. So the Board of Forestry, due to another court edict, had to come up with something else. The state had to put something in the THP, not the timber company. So the state, these are checkbox, yes or no, timber harvest plans. The state came up with a question that they put at the end of the timber harvest plan. The official question is a direct mirror of what the timber company put in. Are there any other existing or planned use land use out there? Blah, blah, blah. Yes or no? Well, duh. So then they got really creative. They started addressing the the cumulative effects provisions in the timber harvest plans themselves. And so what we found were a lot of weasel words. This is the state. This is not Pacific Lumber, Max Sam saying this, although, kind of it is. But so this is the state, CDF Weasel Words. So here's the 125-acre unentered virgin redwood forest on Yager Creek. Tractor logging and new road construction will contribute to surface soil erosion, but it is unlikely to be significant at this time. Mass soil movement may happen during the lifespan of the new roads on slopes over 65%, but to say that it will be significant is too early. New road construction and tractor logging may somewhat decrease water quality, but only for a short time period. It cannot be judged at this time if it will be significant. This stand has direct access to the public, however, it cannot be judged at this time if this clear cut of virgin redwood would significantly impact aesthetics. And then what about endangered species? No endangered species were noted during the inspection. Old growth timber has been noted to shelter all types of plants and animals. Unless one observes these species, it cannot be judged if any significant impact has occurred. And of course, that's not even true. So, what about wildlife? Okay. Well, this is when they got really creative. Okay. These are unentered ancient redwood timber harvest plans, the last of the last. Right? A general short-term improvement for wildlife habitat will occur with this timber harvest plan. Possible minor improvement to wildlife habitat. These are all different THPs. These are the ones, there's 10,000 acres of old growth. Wildlife habitat may be improved. Some deer habitat may be improved. Wildlife habitat may generally improve. What about the Department of Fish and Wildlife, which is then called Fish and Game? Well, there was a 96-acre clear cut of unentered ancient redwood forest on Thompson Creek, at the mouth of Thompson Creek, at the Eel River, across from Founders Grove, or close to it. And CDF even said, this is the last piece of virgin timber in this area. It's impressive and park-like in appearance. Well, when CDF says it's park-like, that's really fucking nice, man. So what does Fish and Wildlife say? Well, they're going to clear cut this, the very last, and plug at this mountain, but a commendable amount of work has been done to make sure that a reasonably undisturbed and natural occurring condition will result. So this is what we were dealing with. And this is into 86 and 87. This is 96 with acre plan in 86. So one of the first things we did, we took all this information, and in early 1987, we put out a tablet. We made 10,000 copies of this, and we distributed it to all of the House and Senate and the state representatives and the county. And I have to say that our three representatives, State Assembly, State Senate, and U.S. Congress, were really bending over mightily. And of course, the Board of Supervisors and the Fortuna City Council. I mean, it was bad. Everybody just caved instantly, except for the employees. They're the only ones that showed any backbone. And a few others, there was a few exceptions. The elected reps and the bureaucrats, really, of course, a few exceptions. But overall, and it was because people were scared, the climate of fear. And we came in, and we weren't afraid. And because our jobs weren't on the line, and we didn't have to see these people in the stores, or if we did, we didn't care. It was, we could be outsiders. There was an important part of that to this whole thing. But really, the people who were elected and put in place to help protect locals didn't do their job. So in any case, we put this out, and we, called it as we saw it, big timber, rubber stamp, and state-supported terrace, and a mild-mannered stuff there. The most important thing about this was that we put out a map that showed for the first time where the old growth groves are, and how big they are. We used 1980 stereo photos and used timber harvest plans to subtract 6 years from their maps, and we came up with these groves. And these groves are Owl Creek Grove, about 1,000 acres, as mentioned. Shaw Creek Grove, that was about 600 acres. It still is about 600 acres. There's still a lot of it there. All Species Grove was 1,000 acres. There's almost none of that left. And Headwaters Grove, about 3,000 acres. What we missed was the Allen Creek Grove, 300, 400 acres, I think. A little grove up here on the North Fork of the Elk, which no longer stands. And Elkhead Springs Grove, about half of which is left. And is included in the Headwaters buyout. Importantly, I mentioned this before, these groves salmonids, but also for the marbled murrelet, the spotted owl, and just to have it there. This was the largest contiguous grove of redwood in the world by an order of magnitude, more than twice as large as the next biggest contiguous grove. Again, the majority of it was selectively logged, but it was still there, it was still old growth. And this was the big giveaway that nobody was doing anything about. We couldn't get, at this point, we couldn't even get conservation groups to do anything, except EPIC, and we're going to get to that. And then Sierra Club came in 88 and joined lawsuits. But it took forever. And I couldn't understand it. It was the last of the last. It was the Taj Mahal, like somebody's ripping down the Taj Mahal. You know, you think anybody would put up with that?